Magnus Carlsen and Hans Niemann are both playing in the Julius Baer Generation Cup, and it's basically a whole big round robin for the prelims, so the two of them are guaranteed to play again. And I say again because Magnus Carlsen had previously been defeated by Hans in round 3 of the Sinquefield Cup. Immediately after that, Magnus withdrew from the entire Sinquefield Cup tournament, and he made a tweet insinuating that Hans Niemann had cheated, but he didn't explicitly say anything because of legal reasons. He did not want to get charged with libel or slander, whatever it is. I think libel is literate, so L is written words. But anyway, let's just get to the rematch, okay? So Hans Niemann with the white pieces, he plays d4, Magnus Carlsen plays knight f6, and then Hans plays c4, and Magnus resigns. After 2 moves, Magnus is like, nope, I'm done. He logs off, and the facts are that the facts are unknown, and it's innocent until proven guilty. Yes, Hans did cheat online in the past, but cheating over the board is completely different from cheating online. Not because of ethics, it's both ethically completely wrong, but it's more because of execution. There are security measures in place to not cheat over the board at the Sinquefield Cup. The Sinquefield Cup stated that there was no cheating detected, and with no hard evidence, it is hard for me to stomach Magnus's actions because to me it seems unprofessional, it seems childish, and it's a really bad example for the rest of the chess world to see. That's just my personal opinion. Let me know what you think below. But for now, let's just focus on the chess. And I do want to show off the chess that is engine-like in this game where Hans Niemann plays Vincent Keymer in round 4 of the Julius Baer Generation Cup. It's quite wild. It starts off with an English, and it's the g3 English, fianchettoing this light square bishop on this long diagonal. Keymer strikes in the center, takes more space in the center. Hans is like, all right, d4, that's enough space. We don't need to let you proceed any further. After this check, blocks with the knight, and Keymer gets asked, are you going to trade off the bishop for the knight, or are you going to preserve your bishop? Well, in general, especially in the opening, you don't know what type of position you're going to get. You want to preserve the bishop, so they go back, and okay, a few more moves. Hans fianchettos both his bishops, so they're eyeing both of these long diagonals, and Keymer's like, nope, let's just shut down your dark square bishop, and just really get a grasp of the dark squares in the center of the board. And you'll notice that after a lot of shuffling, what ends up happening is that, okay, Hans strikes in the center, e4. And there's 2 different answers here, right? You can either leave this structure completely locked for most of the rest of the game, or Keymer can take with en passant. And it's an argument where Keymer could say, look, white's dark square bishop is absolute trash, right? How is it going to get involved in the game? And maybe you could say like a4, bishop a3, and white's dark square bishop's better. Especially because on the flip side, Keymer has to worry about his own dark square bishop. If Keymer's bishop can't see anything and it's locked in here, I mean, it's a little bit harder actually for this to reroute and get into the game. So maybe that's why Keymer took en passant to open up both bishops. He figured that his bishop might be better in the long run. And after a few more moves, Hans continues striking in the center. And with d4, after takes, knight jumps out. And here's the beginning of all the craziness, okay? So this knight's obviously threatened to take the rook, also kind of threatening to take the bishop, which I know is defended, but hey, this bishop with long-term pressure is probably better than this knight on d3 right now. The only move that the engine likes is knight h4, and Hans finds it. And here's the idea. A million intermezzo or zwischenzug moves basically takes with check, and Keymer forks the king and queen of white. And yeah, I mean, Hans just takes it. He's like, here, take my queen because I'm taking your queen. And Keymer's like, wait, but before I take your knight, I'm going to give you a check. And Hans is like, no, like, I'll just take. And yeah, sure, you can take. And you're attacking my rook, but hey, like, I can give you a check. And then, okay, now I'll protect everything. And if you look at the material, sure, it says that it's even, but in reality, white has 2 pieces for a rook, and that's the slight imbalance here. Keymer centralizes his rook, and then he takes the dark square bishop, and then from here, both players are kind of trying to make progress moving forward with their pieces, and Hans stops the c-pawn, retreats with the knight, and here's where Keymer basically goes a little bit too aggressive too soon. b6. And Hans is just kind of like, well, I mean, yeah, I could make a bunch of equal moves. I could just play something slow. I'll play knight c4, and there's a lot to this move. Because after b takes c5, well, knight f4. All this time, if you hadn't noticed, maybe Keymer noticed and just forgot, but knight f4 is a discovered attack on the rook. So you can't just take because you would lose your rook for the knight. And so for this reason, the rook moves. But what else is hanging? White to win material. 3, 2, 1. Giant fork, okay? So earlier, Keymer forked the king and queen of white, but it did not actually win material. It created imbalance, sure. It traded 2 pieces for a rook, but here, Hans is just straight up winning in exchange. And then he wins the a pawn, then he wins the c pawn, and after a few more moves, Keymer just straight up resigns because this a pawn is going to run and it cannot be stopped. The rook's going to go to the a file, and even if Keymer brings his bishop to the light square diagonal to protect the promotion square, Hans can just play bishop g2 and trade the bishops off. So for that reason, Hans takes home a nice W, and yeah, it is a phenomenal tactical exercise of a game because if you go back, the critical moment is when Hans played e4 and Keymer decided to open up the position. Open positions, probably a little bit more prone for tactics. And yeah, when Hans pushed d4 and all this happened, knight jumps in, defended by the queen. And yeah, all these intermezzo moves by both players, right, is just insane. It's saying, sure, take my rook, but instead of taking the rook, it tries to fork the king and queen, and then queens get off the board this way. Check, don't care, take the 2 pieces for the rook, and then yeah, just complete insanity. Just one pawn move that is slightly too aggressive with b6, and the rest of the game got very, very hairy for Keymer. And knight f4, what a move. Not that it's so impossible to find, but just because there's so many threats with it. It's hitting the rook 2 different times, and it's threatening the fork. And just a great find by Hans Niemann. Regarding the drama, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. But for me, I'm just going to try and focus on the chess, learn what I can, and hope you stay for the ride. Happy learning, everyone.